Well, looky here. We've got a pop-up RLE from none other than our supposed brother in the Lord, Alan Richton. This is probably the worst biblical, I don't even know. And it's funny when people talk. I don't know if he's nervous to talk about the Bible and Jesus, but he seems to stutter a lot over his words. And I know he said in the description box, which you can see it, the link will be there, but he said he was clumsy or something like that. This whole thing makes zero sense, and it's 6 minutes long. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to interrupt it. I'm going to let you hear this in its entirety. Enjoy this pop-up RLE.
I've been working with a psychiatrist, and there's one thing that has emerged as one of the most important things that I can do for myself to find a more fulfilling life. And that is to plug into community more, which is very hard for me because I'm always on the road. Very difficult to have friends or community when you're traveling so much. And so this has become a theme in my life that I hear over and over again, find ways to connect with other people. There's an article in the Atlantic that echoes this sentiment. The article is called Why Americans Suddenly Stopped Hanging Out. From 2003 to 2022, there's no statistical record of any other period in U.S. history when people have spent more time on their own. So let's pause there. Okay, we have a problem with connecting with others, with being in community, and the statistics don't lie. So let's go back to the very beginning of what Scripture has to say about us walling ourselves off, us creating our own individual cities. The first city in Scripture mentioned in Genesis 4 the inference was that this was a bad idea. This was Cain, from Cain and Abel, Cain who killed his brother and was cast out of the garden. It was said he was very concerned. God approached him about the murder and of his brother, and that he said Cain would be cast out. Cain said, "Whoever finds me will kill me." There was guilt on his soul. So it says, then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who would find him would kill him. So God left him some form of blessing, some protection. But the very first thing that Cain does is run and settle and build walls. He built the first city. So the inference is that this was a place where he did not trust God to protect him and felt like he needed to protect himself.
That doesn't make sense.
And out of that city grew this mythologically large human example of human brokenness.
That doesn't make sense.
Into the city of Babylon as the archetype of the height of human evil. So anytime Babylon is mentioned in the Bible, what we're really talking about is this archetype for human evil, where a mistrust of God, where hedonism, where murder, where anybody who's tribalism, anybody who's different is at risk of death or mayhem.
Boy, have you lost your mind? Because I'll help you find it.
And so we're called to tear down those walls of Babylon in our own lives, to help Babylon fall so that a new Jerusalem could reign.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
This new Jerusalem is something that is promised as being a place where heaven and earth meet. So Jerusalem would be the opposite of Babylon, where we commune with God and with others in ways of love. The antithesis of Babylon comes to life in that place. And so we get this idea of a new Jerusalem being a city where hope is restored. Ezekiel prophesied of this new city. So we understand through the prophets that the city is not a good place. This is not the way that God wanted us to go. But we talk about a new city. So something's going to change. Ezekiel talks about this. The new Jerusalem will be a gathering point of the world's nations and will serve as the capital of the renewed kingdom of Israel. This country of citizenship where the rules are different.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Where expectations that God has for humanity is different. Where love looks different. The biblical authors made it clear in the New Testament that there would also be a new Jerusalem, but they believed that the new Jerusalem was found in the person of Christ. So this unexpected display, manifestation of a new city found in Jesus. One of the ways that they show us that this is true is when the star of Bethlehem was not found in Jerusalem, but the Magi who came to find him, the wise men, came to find Jerusalem and pay homage to the Messiah, passed through Jerusalem and had to go to Bethlehem, where the star was, telling us that that Jerusalem is not the place where this would be found. There would be a new Jerusalem in an unexpected way.
Oh my God. Am I having a tease? I'm sorry, I didn't see that coming.
Jesus also claimed to be this temple, to be this place where humanity would be restored and gathered to himself. He was mocked for this on the cross, where it says in Mark 15:29, those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "So you who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days?" They were mocking him because he said he would be the temple that would be rebuilt in 3 days.
Ooh, yeah. I'm going to have to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there.
If all this is true, that Jesus is the Messiah, that Jesus is the new Jerusalem and the new model for human and heaven coexistence, he calls to us to be the new city as well. He says in Matthew 5:14, right after giving the Sermon on the Mount, which is something I talked about a couple weeks ago, he says in Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden." So he gives us the path towards fulfillment in our life, our high calling in the Sermon on the Mount, where our blessing would be found, and then goes on to call us salt, light, a town on a hill. We are the city of God. And so that brings us back to this article in the Atlantic where we no longer hang out with each other. We're no longer a light in people's life, and we have to call into question if our way is better than the way that Christ called us to. We have to consider if Christ is the Messiah and a place where heaven and earth meet, where we fit into that equation, and what that means for us in other people's lives as the new city of God.
It's weird. The whole thing is weird.